Joining me now from the Capitol to talk more about the Veterans Summit and today's agreement is the chair of the Senate Veterans, Homeland Security, and Military Affairs Committee, Greg Ball. Senator, it is good to see you. Thanks for being with me.
Hey, good to be here. Thank you.
So this is a significant development. It is a program that's actually more generous than what the federal government allows. How did it come about, this agreement?
You know, I've been fighting for this with some of my colleagues, including on the Assembly side, Felix Ortiz, now for several years. And we were very excited. We started at 3%. The federal government does a 3% set aside. Actually, some of the great news is that unlike other states that have this be aspirational, this is going to be an actual 6%, double the federal standard, actual 6% set aside for these small businesses that are owned by service disabled vets. And so we've had legislation that we've passed repeatedly in the Senate. It hit a wall many times over and over again in the Assembly. The governor came out in his State of the State, made a commitment to this legislation, our Jobs for Heroes program, and honestly, without his support, without his leadership, we wouldn't have been able to get it done. So it's a really good day.
So at this summit, he did a ceremonial signing of legislation that you guys actually haven't passed yet. It's going to be passed, I believe, next week. Is that correct? So this agreement's going to hold until then because, you know, Albany and everything.
You know, I tell you, there is no issue that I care about more than this one, and I've watched this go through the process. The fact that Shelley Silver has now publicly expressed his support. You know, the governor's been very good throughout this entire process. Certainly the Senate leadership has as well. There were some issues and struggles over the past couple years on the Assembly side. So today, I'm glad the governor did it. I know that we'll be passing the bills probably on Monday or Tuesday, actually, and then have a real signing later on. But to have Shelley Silver and Dean and the governor to publicly come out and say, look, we're going to get this done, and then to actually kick it up a notch and say, no, we're not going to do 3%, we're not going to do 5%, but we're going to do 6% and double the federal standard, this is a big deal.
What was the problem in the Assembly exactly?
You know, Albany is the land that common sense forgot on many days, and I found that even good things, common sense, things like this that are America, apple pie, it should be just common sense to get this done. It's a struggle. There are folks that have agendas, and there's a lot of misunderstanding among members with this program. There were concerns initially that it would compete with the MeBe-Weebie, the minority and women-owned programs, which it doesn't. And it's been a long process, and I thank Assemblyman Ortiz and Assemblyman Benedetto and other colleagues on the Assembly side of carrying the water over there and helping us get this done in a bipartisan way.
So just to be clear, though, what it does is ensure that businesses that are owned by disabled military veterans can compete for state contracts, and it sets aside 6% of those contracts to be awarded to people who qualify, correct?
Right. Right. So many other programs are aspirational. They say, well, we'd like you to hit 6%, or they 3% actually, and we're saying not only that, double it to 6%, and then we're actually going to take 6% of those state contracts, including the authorities, construction, highways, infrastructure. So we're talking about over $400 million that these service-disabled veteran-owned businesses are going to have immediate access to. And Liz, you know, the veteran unemployment is through the roof.
Yeah.
The good news is that vets hire vets. And this is meaningful employment. And we're not only talking about jobs here, we really are also talking about saving lives through giving vets meaningful employment. We all know the epidemic of veteran suicide, unfortunately, that hits us every day.
So, Senator, I would be a little bit remiss if I did not note that there's a bit of a commotion going on behind you. There is a very large protest, a protest of progressives who are not happy with the governor's fiscal conservatism in the budget, in his proposal. I'm just curious what your assessment of the budget is and how the negotiations are going.
Well, you know, I would say that many of the people that I represent would like to be protesting as well, but they have jobs and they're trying to pay their taxes, and 2 million of them have already left the state because they can't afford to be here. And thank God the governor and on our side in the Senate, we actually realized that this state for a long time was in a downward spiral, and we can't continue to throw money at a problem. We actually have to trim the size of government, make it more affordable so small business owners and people that are trying to raise working families and send kids to college, that they can actually afford to live in this state. And I know we all have to deal with our political bases. The Republican Party is no different from the Democratic Party in that perspective. But the people in my district, my constituents, the taxpayers, they're struggling. But many times those screams are silent because they don't have the time to come up to the Capitol and protest.
We saw an unusual situation in which a bill, a pretty high-profile bill, came to the floor of the Senate and failed. It doesn't happen that frequently. It was the DREAM Act. Now we have advocates trying to insist that it needs to be included in the budget. None of the Republicans, including yourself, of course, voted yes. If it's included in the budget, is that going to be difficult for you? Will you have to vote no on the budget or on the piece of the budget, which I expect would be education, if the DREAM Act is included?
I definitely would vote down the DREAM Act in any form. I support comprehensive immigration reform. It's very simple for me. The federal government, unfortunately, the Republican Party wants cheap labor, and the Democrats see future votes, and blue-collar people are getting screwed paying the bill. We need to secure the border, open up a pathway to citizenship to people who are obeying the law, haven't paid taxes, learn the language, become a citizen, and deport people that are breaking the law. But the federal government hasn't done that, so they've forced this issue now state by state. And we live in a world of finite resources, and to the extent that we're going to take our resources to send illegal aliens to college, when we have legal immigrants with an L here in the state in large numbers, and working kids that they can't make ends meet, including a lot of minority youth that of course are here legally in the city. I mean, it just doesn't make sense, and when you poll it, it doesn't make sense, and I think that to the extent that it's in the budget, I certainly would be voting no.
There's also another controversial piece that was sort of included in the Senate One House budget. It's campaign finance reform, specifically the creation of a publicly funded system. Is your conference really open to that?
I don't see how, and look, I mean, it's above my pay grade to speak on behalf of the conference, but just speaking member to member, I don't believe that we would ever support welfare for politicians where you're going to take taxpayer dollars and use them on annoying robocalls and expensive mailings for politicians that we don't like, and some of which are pending indictment. It doesn't make sense. Now, campaign finance reform and ethics reform and making sure that we can bring even more clarity and transparency to the state capitol, the governor would have a partner, not only myself, but others in the conference. But using taxpayer dollars to fund campaigns of which we don't even, we don't agree with, and there are many examples of campaign abuses, to use those taxpayer dollars to fund robocalls and annoying, mail. I don't see us doing that.
Before I let you go, I'm just curious, have you made any more decisions in terms of your own political future? I know you were hoping to wait until after the budget. The budget, of course, is pretty close. I'm assuming that you all hit the deadline of April 1st.
I haven't, and I honestly have been just hyper-focused on this service-disabled veterans bill, working with the governor and working with the legislature to get that done. And of course, there are a ton of other issues, but I'll make my decision in due time, and you'll be the first to know.
Oh, good. Well, we'll hold you to that, Senator. I thank you very much for your time.
Have a great day.
You too.